Today we're talking about running warm-ups. Now, if you saw my Instagram story yesterday, I did a poll on who warms up properly before they go out for a run. I was shocked to see that almost everyone answered no. Now, we know warm-ups are important. That's something that we're told all the time. We warm up before we do strength training. We warm up before we jump into an exercise class. So why are we not warming up to run? Now, running is more complex than you think. It uses a lot of the different muscles and joints of the body. And if you're running wrong or you're not warming up properly so that your muscles are firing in a good movement pattern, you're going to put yourself at risk of injury. So today we're going to go over a 5-minute warm-up that you can do before you run that's going to prime your body so that all your muscles are working together, and it's going to prevent you from being injured and also allow you to run much better and much further. So when it comes to what muscles we want to target in our running warm-up, we really want to work the hamstrings, the glutes, the hips, a little bit of core and rotation, and then work on loosening up the upper body. So a couple things that I see in a lot of people is they run with their shoulders up around their ears and they hold a lot of tension through their upper body. This is so not good while you're running because that's going to cause tension in your neck and throw off your form all the way down the line. Also, if your hamstrings are really tight, that's not going to help with your run because we need our hamstrings to create that power. So we're going to start our warm-up today with just some hamstring stretches. Now, everything we do in this warm-up is dynamic, so I'm not really into doing static stretching where you're holding stretches before you do your exercise because your muscles are still cold. We want to get everything moving and get that blood flowing. So this is going to help create some length in your hamstrings. I find most people are pretty tight, especially if they've been sitting all day. So going through this, you want to do about 30 seconds of each movement. Next, we're going to go into our quads and hip flexors. So I'm kicking my butt, getting some stretch through my quads. Once again, if you have any sort of quad tightness, usually it means that you're kind of bearing into your quads during exercises. So getting some mobility here is going to be key. And if we can get our quads and hamstrings to work together, you're going to have a lot more power in your run and not get fatigued so quickly. Now, after we warm up our quads, we're going to go into our ankles. So you can do some little up and down heel lifts. A lot of times I'll do like a tiptoe walk. So I'm kind of working on warming up those calves. Why is this important? If you have any sort of tendency to get plantar fasciitis or issues with your feet, it might be that your calves are tight. So we want to go little tiptoe walk and then kicking our heel out, stretching that out as we move. You may feel this shoot all the way up into your glutes. Totally fine. Now, speaking of glutes, we also want to warm those up. So a lot of times people are very weak through their outer glutes, and that can cause you to kind of dip through your hip as you run. Now, if you're watching me, might look cute, but totally not a great running pattern because the more movement you have in your run, the more prone you are to injury, muscle imbalance, and just not being able to run very far. So for our glute warm-up, we want to do a little half shuffle. So you can shuffle sideways. I'm really feeling those outer glutes. Same thing, you can turn around, do it the other way. So you can do this like going down the block. It might look a little funny, but believe me, you're going to feel so much better after. Next, we're going to go into those hip flexors. So high knees, we're going to bring our knees all the way up to our chest. Now, hip flexors are really important for running, and most people are very tight through here. So if you're running and your hip flexors are tight and weak, you're not really getting any power. You're not bringing your knees in front of you. So we want to work on getting that movement. Not that we want to run like this, but you want those hip flexors to be active. You want them to be doing the work instead of just coming along for the ride. If you have tight hip flexors, you're kind of running like this. It's not going to be good for your form, and you're going to feel that in your low back. Working up the line, we're going into rotation. So rotating our body side to side. So when we run, we want to be able to activate our core. So you don't want to actually have a whole lot of rotation when you're running. You want to be able to seamlessly run with your arms at 90 with just a little bit of movement through that torso. Now, keeping the core tight is super important. When our core is not tight, it plays down all the way through the line. So you're going to feel that in your hips and your knees and your ankles and even going up to your head. So keeping our core engaged, keeping our pelvis tucked under is super key when it comes to good running form. Now the last thing here, I like to open up the chest. So reaching out to the side, getting some nice movement through our chest. we all live in that very forward posture. So our chest is super tight, and it's really important to open that up. If you're running with your shoulders hunched, you're going to feel this all the way here. And once again, not going to feel good on everything else. So we really want to roll those shoulders out, open it up. A lot of times I'll have people bring their shoulders all the way up to their ears and then relax them down. That's a good way to force that movement, to force that relaxation. Even while you're running, it can be beneficial to do that every like half mile or mile or so, just to try to release some of that tension from your neck. So that's what a typical running warm-up looks like. I'm going to put this all in the comments so you can follow it in a list. You don't have to watch this every time. But I hope that gave you a little bit of insight on what we should be doing before we run. It's going to really help prevent injury.